Hello, welcome to MS 101. I am Andrea Rogers, Multiple Sclerosis Nurse Navigator for the Norton Neuroscience Institute. In today's presentation, we will be discussing what MS is, the types of multiple sclerosis, and relapse management. Let's start with the most important question. What is multiple sclerosis? The definition is, multiple sclerosis is a chronic inflammatory disease that involves an immune-mediated attack on the central nervous system. The central nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and optic nerves. Before we move on, many find it helpful to go over some basic nerve anatomy. Here you will see a diagram of a nerve. The nerve impulse or signal is generated around the nucleus and then transmitted down the axon and goes out the axon terminals, which send the signal to the next nerve's dendrites. Think of it as similar to a big game of telephone, in which the axon terminals are holding hands with the next nerve's dendrites. In this diagram, you can see how there are bubbles around the axon. This is the myelin sheath. It allows nerve signals to be transmitted down the axon smoothly. Without the myelin sheath, the nerve signals cannot go through properly. Now, let's go over some very basic immunology. We all have two main types of immune cells. We have B cells and T cells. We can think of B cells as the tattletales on the playground. They identify viruses and bacteria and develop antibodies against them. These antibodies then tell the T cells, who are like the bullies, to attack these viruses and bacteria. The tattletales tell the bullies who to go beat up. That is your immune system in a nutshell. In the case of multiple sclerosis, the B and T cells get confused and begin to attack the myelin sheath. This process is referred to as demyelination. Because the immune system attacks a part of the body, MS is considered an autoimmune disease. This slide demonstrates what demyelination can look like. On the left, we see a healthy nerve with an intact myelin sheath. On the right, we see a nerve whose myelin sheath has been damaged by the immune system. It has big chunks missing. Because the myelin sheath is not intact, the nerve impulses cannot get transmitted smoothly to the next nerve. This can lead to any number of symptoms. Some of the most common symptoms of multiple sclerosis are listed on this slide. These include fatigue, weakness, balance difficulty, trouble walking, numbness and tingling, pain, depression, visual disturbance, cognitive impairment, speech difficulty, trouble swallowing, sexual dysfunction, bowel and bladder dysfunction, muscle stiffness or spasms, an electrical shock sensation when looking down, and a tight squeezing sensation around the upper abdomen. Now, let's get into the different types of multiple sclerosis. First, we have relapsing remitting multiple sclerosis. This is the most common type and is characterized by relapses and remissions. This slide has a graph which helps to explain. This individual started at their baseline, then they had a relapse where they experienced worsening of symptoms. After a while, they got better and either returned to their baseline or close to it. After a while longer, they have another relapse, but when they get better, they do not go back to how they were before. This is considered disability progression. As you can see, with every relapse, this individual retains more symptoms. Next, we have secondary progressive multiple sclerosis. Over time, some individuals with relapsing remitting MS stop having relapses and instead begin to experience a gradual worsening of symptoms over time with no return to baseline. Lastly, there is primary progressive multiple sclerosis. About 15% of those newly diagnosed are considered to have this type of multiple sclerosis. Instead of having relapses followed by an improvement in symptoms, these individuals experience a gradual worsening of symptoms over time without improvement. Now, throughout this presentation, you have heard the term relapse. This is also known as an attack, flare, or exacerbation. All these terms refer to the same thing. A relapse is considered the development of new or worsening of old MS symptoms that last more than 24 hours and is separated from the previous episode by at least 30 days. Relapses can occur suddenly or gradually and can last days to months even with treatment. It is important to note that not every relapse will be associated with changes on an MRI. Let's say you are experiencing what you believe to be a relapse. What do? Start by calling your provider's office, where you will be connected to our nursing staff. The nurses will then ask you a series of questions including, when did your symptoms start? What symptoms are you having? Have you missed any medication doses? Are you sick, stressed, or been exposed to heat? Now, some of those questions may seem strange at first, but they are designed to help determine if you are experiencing a true relapse or a pseudo-flare. A pseudo-flare is the temporary worsening of existing symptoms caused by illness, stress, or heat, and is resolved by addressing the underlying cause. If you are sick, this is most commonly with upper respiratory infections such as the flu, cold, or COVID, or urinary tract infections. This can trigger your immune system to essentially go into overdrive, which can make your MS symptoms worse. However, once the underlying illness resolves, the MS symptoms should return to where they were before you got sick. If you are stressed, this triggers your body to release inflammatory hormones, which can cause worsening of MS symptoms. However, these symptoms should improve as the stress is managed effectively. Some people with MS, when they are exposed to heat, such as Kentucky in July, it can temporarily make their symptoms worse. This is referred to as Uthoff's phenomenon and is not well understood. However, if that individual were to go back inside and cool off, their symptoms would improve. Now, let's say we go through all those questions and any recommended testing and determine that what you're experiencing is a true relapse. How do we treat it? The short answer is steroids. This will typically be either oral or IV steroids depending on the severity of symptoms. If IV steroids are recommended, IV Solumedrol will be utilized. This is given as 1,000 milligrams over 1 hour infusion for either 3 or 5 days, depending on the severity of symptoms. If, for some reason, Solumedrol cannot be given, we may recommend IV Decadron instead. If oral steroids are recommended, you will be prescribed prednisone. You will start by taking several pills a day and then gradually take less and less every day until the taper is complete. Now, let's say, for whatever reason, steroids cannot be administered at all. In this situation, we will prescribe Acthar gel. This is a medication you will self-inject daily for 2 weeks. Over time, Acthar gel stimulates the body to produce anti-inflammatory hormones. This will decrease the swelling around your lesions and minimize any lasting impact. It is important to note that even after completing treatment for a relapse, your symptoms may take several more weeks to resolve. The goal of relapse management is to minimize any lasting damage. On that note, the sooner we treat a relapse, the better. Thank you for watching this presentation, and if you have additional questions, please do not hesitate to reach out by calling the Norton Neuroscience Institute's Hussing Family Multiple Sclerosis Center at 502-899-6782.